Fear isn't always found in dark forests or haunted houses. Sometimes it lives closer than you think. Watching, waiting, following. Tonight, I'm going to tell you 3 true stalker horror stories, shared by real people who lived through the unimaginable. And while their stories are chilling, what's even more terrifying is that they could happen to anyone. So lock your doors, check your windows, and keep the lights on, because these are 3 very scary true stalker stories, and they'll make you think twice about who might be watching you right now. Story 1, The Man in the Shed. There's something uniquely terrifying about the idea of being watched. Not in the dramatic, cinematic sense, but in the silent, hidden way that seeps into your life without you ever noticing. This story isn't just about a stalker. It's about how danger can live right outside your window, literally. I was 15 when this happened, living in a modest house with my parents and my little brother. It was a quiet neighborhood, the kind where people wave at each other but mostly keep to themselves. Our backyard had an old, slightly run-down shed that hadn't been used in years. It sat back in the corner behind overgrown weeds and a broken fence gate, just far enough away to be forgotten, yet close enough to be unsettling if you thought too hard about it. That summer, something changed. I started noticing small things. At first, it was subtle. Tools were moved. I'd hear faint rustling at night when I took the trash out, like someone shifting their weight behind the trees. I told myself it was animals, raccoons, maybe even a stray dog. One evening, I was home alone, curled up on the couch watching TV. The lights were off except for the blue glow of the screen. I glanced toward the back window and I froze. A figure was standing just beyond the tree line, facing the house, motionless. No flashlight, no movement, just watching. I screamed and called my dad. He rushed home and searched the yard with a flashlight, but found nothing. No footprints, no sign anyone had been there. I remember how he reassured me. You probably imagined it. It was dark. Shadows played tricks on you. But I knew what I saw. The next few weeks were filled with strange little things. My bedroom window would be open when I know I had shut it. My phone charger disappeared for days and then reappeared, neatly coiled on my pillow. Once, I found muddy footprints inside the kitchen, like someone had come in through the back door, but nothing was taken. I started losing sleep. I kept my curtains closed and a baseball bat beside my bed. My parents finally installed security cameras around the house. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. One night, the motion detector camera in the backyard pinged. We all rushed to the monitor, expecting a raccoon or a deer. But what we saw turned my blood to ice. There was a man, crawling out of the shed on his hands and knees, slowly, like something out of a horror movie. His face was partially obscured by a hoodie, but he was thin, gaunt, and he looked comfortable, like he lived there. My dad called the police. They came, guns drawn, and swept the shed. And yeah, he had been living there for weeks. Inside they found a sleeping bag, food wrappers, old photographs of our family, taken through our windows, and worst of all, a knife. Not just any knife, but one that was deliberately sharpened and wrapped in tape for grip. He had been watching us, planning something. I was 15. He had been watching me. The man was arrested. Turns out, he was a former employee of a landscaping company that had done work in our neighborhood a few years ago. He remembered me. He had been obsessed. Watching, waiting, stalking. We moved within the month. This is a terrifying example of invisible danger. The kind that doesn't break down your door or chase you down an alley, but lurks, hides, studies you. Imagine walking around your home, brushing your teeth, playing video games, all while someone's outside, watching from the dark. What's even more chilling is how long it took to realize what was happening. So many stalkers, especially ones with obsessive tendencies, are patient. They wait. They learn your patterns. They get comfortable, and that's where the danger lies. Always lock your windows. Check that old shed. Trust your instincts, because sometimes being paranoid is just being prepared. Story 2. He followed me home from the bus stop. There's a certain vulnerability that comes with walking alone. It's just you, the pavement beneath your feet, and the distant hum of the world. Most of the time, it feels mundane, routine, safe, Until one day, it doesn't. This story comes from a young woman, 17 at the time, who had just started her senior year of high school. She lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind where everyone's lawn was trimmed, and you could hear the sprinklers turn on at 6 a.m. sharp. But one evening, something changed. She got off the school bus, earbuds in, backpack slung over one shoulder, and started her usual walk home. She lived just 5 blocks away. It should have been a peaceful walk, but from the moment she stepped off that bus, she could feel it, that someone was watching her. At first, she thought it was just nerves, maybe a jogger behind her, maybe she was being paranoid. But when she crossed the street, so did he. When she slowed down, so did he. She glanced back, and that's when she saw him. A man, late 30s maybe, wearing dark clothes, baseball cap pulled low. He wasn't close, but he wasn't far either, just close enough to keep pace. Not enough to scream, but enough to know. She picked up her pace. Her house was only a block away. Her heart pounded in her ears louder than her music. When she reached her driveway, she turned around, expecting him to keep walking, to pass her by. But instead, he stopped, right across the street, and stared. She bolted inside, locked the door, pulled the curtain aside to peek out the window, and he was still there, standing, watching, like he was memorizing the layout of her house. She told her parents. They called the police, but by the time the cruiser arrived, he was gone. Just vanished. No car. No tráfico. They chalked it up to a one-time incident. A weird guy, maybe drunk, maybe lost. But the girl, she knew better, because the next day he was there again. This time, standing behind a parked car 2 blocks down from the bus stop. And the next day, hiding behind a tree. And the next, standing closer. He never approached, never said a word, but he was always there, waiting, following, staring. She started changing her routine, getting off at a different stop, walking different streets, but he always seemed to find her, until one day she snapped. She pulled out her phone and filmed him, called out to him, "I'm recording you. I've already called the police." And just like that, he turned and walked away. No words, no anger, just a calm, silent retreat into the shadows of the street. The police reviewed the footage, but they never found him, never ID'd him. He had no record, no name, no connection. He simply disappeared. She never saw him again, but to this day she never walks alone. This story taps into a primal fear, the feeling of being hunted, not in the open, but in slow, calculated silence. This wasn't some impulsive criminal. This man was patient. He observed her. He learned her. He followed her without a word, always from just the right distance. Close enough to be felt, but not close enough to act. That kind of behavior is terrifying because it shows intent. He had a plan, and had she not called him out, had she not filmed him, we might be telling a very different story. And that's the lesson here. Listen to your instincts. Don't dismiss fear as paranoia. If something feels off, it probably is. Your body knows things before your brain can explain them. This girl may have saved her own life just by trusting her gut. Story 3. He told me he was going to kill me. This one, it gets under your skin. Starts like any ordinary story. A 21-year-old woman working a late shift at a small local grocery store. It was a sleepy town where nothing really happened, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone. And the strangest part of your day might be a price scanner not working. But one night, during her usual 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift, something felt off. He walked in around 9:45 p.m. A man in his late 30s, shaggy hair, scruffy beard, and the kind of dead-eyed stare that makes your instincts whisper, "Something's wrong." She greeted him out of politeness, the way you do when you work retail. "Evening, sir," she said. He didn't reply. He just kept walking slow, deliberate steps. "No cart, no basket." He wasn't there to shop. She watched from behind the counter as he meandered through the aisles, occasionally picking up a random can, then putting it back. He was pretending to shop, but he was watching her the entire time. Eventually, he made his way to the checkout, just a bottle of water in his hand. As she rang it up, she tried not to look nervous, but his silence was deafening. Then he said something that froze her blood. "You're all alone, huh?" She smiled nervously. Yeah, just about to close up." And then he said it, "I could kill you right now, and no one would even know." She stared at him, unsure if she'd heard correctly, but his eyes, they weren't joking. She forced a laugh. "Haha, that's not funny." He didn't laugh. Instead, he leaned in closer and whispered, "I'm not joking." Her hands trembled as she slid his bottle across the counter. "Have a nice night," she said, her voice barely holding steady. He didn't move, just stared at her for a long, painful moment, then turned and slowly walked out. She locked the doors the second he was gone. Heart pounding, adrenaline pumping. She called the police, but by the time they arrived, he was gone. No security footage. The store's cameras hadn't been working for weeks. Management never got around to fixing them. The cops told her, "Probably just a mentally ill transient. Try not to work alone." That night, her manager finally agreed to let someone else close with her. But for weeks, she couldn't shake the feeling that he'd be back. And one night, this time he didn't come in. He stood outside the glass doors at closing time, just watching, waiting, smiling. She screamed. Her coworker hit the panic button. He ran off before police arrived, and they never saw him again. But she never worked another night shift after that. Can you blame her? This story isn't about a stranger attacking in a dark alley or breaking into a home. It's about the threat of violence, wielded like a weapon in plain sight. This man didn't touch her. He didn't even raise his voice. But what he did was far more terrifying. He let her know what he was capable of. That kind of psychological torment, it leaves scars. The kind that make you check over your shoulder for years. The kind that make you install 3 locks on your door and still sleep with the lights on. It's a brutal reminder that some monsters don't wear masks or carry weapons. Sometimes they come in quietly, casually, and they want you to know they're dangerous because your fear is what feeds them. And sometimes all it takes is one sentence. "I could kill you right now, and no one would even know." Stalkers don't always look like monsters, but what they leave behind is just as terrifying. Whether it's a whisper in the night, a shadow behind the blinds, or a stare that lingers too long, their presence infects every part of life. If you've ever felt like you were being followed or watched, trust that instinct. It might just save you. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell, because I've got more real horror stories coming your way soon. Stay safe out there, and remember, someone might be watching.